So many of you have reached out to me and told me how I'm helping you through your burnout. And I didn't realize how much people are going through this in our society right now. And I wanted to try to deconstruct it for you to hopefully help you on your journey or give you a piece that you didn't consider. So I found myself in burnout just before the pandemic. I had been in a job that was too hard for me for about 2 years. When I say too hard, it required me to be at 100% capability level every single day that I worked. And I've recognized now I really need a job that I can do on low energy, on high energy, on middle energy. So it's not just that I need a job that I enjoy, but I need a job that is fairly easy for me to do and fairly easy for me to show up for in whatever condition I'm in. So I found myself with this job that I was not well suited for, but that I did enjoy quite a bit. And I was working from home, and that environment ended up kind of burning me out too. I know some people really like it. I really want to kind of be in the community. It helps me wake up. It helps regulate my nervous system in some ways. So I kind of knew that I already needed to leave that job when the pandemic started. And the pandemic made my work really busy. I had switched into owning my own business in the same job in 2018. So I worked for myself, for my own clients, and it was an online marketing. So everybody wanted to move online with their retail store because retail stores weren't open. So my business got really busy and I started to make a lot of money. And the thing about me is I have never really felt okay. I have never really felt safe. And so the idea of making a whole pile of money was like, okay, wow, I can make myself very okay. I can save money for the future. And I think that thinking was really a trap for me. And the more that I deconstruct, the more that I learn about this stuff now, I realize that money has always been a false god. And I think that money is one of the things that our culture tells us makes us okay, that has nothing to do with us being okay. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that I got into a relationship that was really bad for me. And when I look back on all my least favorite things that I've done in my relationships, the places where my relationships went badly, it was where I made people outer authorities of my life, where I gave away my identity for the good of someone else. And I found someone who was very authoritative. I always liked that quality in people. And I kind of always wanted a man that would boss me around. And I realize now how much that led me to people who were really bad for me and would, in fact, try to control my life in very negative ways. So I got into a relationship in 2020 where now I know this man has a pattern of financial manipulation in relationships. And so he wanted me to buy all these things and ultimately led me to purchase a farm. And it was a combination of me not really thinking about what I want and like, oh, sure, I'll buy this farm. I guess we'll do this dream for you. Not really considering myself, not really grounded in my own identity. And so I found myself in 2021 with a whole bunch of financial responsibilities and no ability to carry them out. At the very moment that I needed to be like changing jobs and not working very much, I was working more than I ever had before. I was not only managing all my internet marketing clients, but I was out digging holes and driving posts and taking care of animals. And it was a crazy life there for a while. So if the first thing is being too focused on money as making you okay, the second thing is letting outer authorities tell you what is good for you. And until I ended this relationship, I was not on the road to healing. So the third thing I have come to find is a nervous system that can't really deal with stress. So the third thing I've come to understand is that I'm a person who doesn't know how to emotionally regulate very well. Another way you could say that is I don't have any distress tolerance. Another way you could say that is I don't know how to metabolize emotional pain. When I look at my family line, all the women in my family are highly stressed out, anxious people, overly productive, doing a lot of things, a lot of codependency, a lot of attempts to control other people. And when I find the roots of that in myself, it comes down to I don't want to stop moving, because if I stop moving, I either feel intense anxiety or low depression. And what I've come to deconstruct as I look into earlier parts of my life is that I spent a lot of time in depression in my teenage years due to my grief and due to my trauma. And I have been so afraid to return to depression because depression made me incapable of showing up for my life that I spent a lot more time in forcing myself to do things, in being stressed out, but being stressed out on purpose. And I think this is the main thing that I want you to understand about burnout is there is a certain aspect of this where we build it into our lives so that it is impossible to take down the structure. There is like stuff built on stuff built on stuff, where it's like, if I just take one pin out, if I just stop juggling all these things for 1 second, the entire edifice is gonna fall. Recovering from this burnout has always felt like letting all the balls down. I know that a lot of people think it's supposed to feel like looking for practical ways to do a different job and to spend time differently and to prioritize yourself differently. But I have to tell you, in my experience, it feels like taking care of myself first and letting the outer world take care of itself, which often can be a really scary process because it can feel like, okay, I'm juggling all these balls and now I'm just gonna let them all down. That is truly what it feels like to me. I have been through other processes that feel similar to this process. One of those processes, if you've done it possibly, is when you are a people pleaser and you've built up a lot of relationships around you where you're the only person giving to the relationships. So you're kind of taking care of all the relationships around you. And when you start to take care of yourself, when you start to put yourself first, what happens? The people around you stop being your friends, because ultimately the friends you have around you are takers. They're not giving friends. They're not friends who match your energy. Of course, you're going to lose those friends when you start to ask for them to give to you equally. The same thing happens when you're in survival mode. You have built up things around you, jobs, situations, relationships even, that feel survivey. This is what I write in my PDF guide, How to Get Out of Survival Mode, which is both on YouTube, and you can email me if you would like to get it for free. This is what I talk about. You have built up things around you that feel survivey, and now you have to survive in order to engage with them. This is what my job was like. I have to show up at 100% or I'm not even able to do this job. I think that the process of deconstructing from burnout is a process. I think that the first thing to do is to kind of figure out where your nervous system is at. My nervous system continues to slow down, and I got a message recently that it has slowed down a lot and it's going to slow down a lot more. There's an interesting thing about being hypervigilant every day and having to operate at such a high level every day. Your nervous system is on a certain like biochemical level, and it takes like months to years for it to calm down. So my nervous system is still in that calming down process. And what I found was initially when I started to slow down, I started to like have slower mornings and have less things that I needed to show up for. Depression was there for me, and I knew to expect it, and I kind of had to welcome it in slowly, because guess what I wanted to do when the depression would come in? I would want to find something to worry about, something to be anxious about. And I kept catching myself. I was like, why are you all worried about this all of a sudden? Are you trying to leave a depressed state in order to stay in anxiety? So I've become very good at self-questioning and recognizing when I'm trying to leave my body into a stressed state. There is this creator on TikTok, Trisha Wolf, and I don't know if she's on other platforms, but she talks about how this process is working. And I've talked about the survival mode nervous system, where I'm either stressed or I am asleep. I no longer have the middle part. I no longer have the rest and digest for whatever reason. I'm not spending a lot of time in this calm, awake, regulated middle place. And what she describes is when you have been through trauma, you are in a state of freeze. That's kind of what depression feels like. It feels like I cannot move forward. My feet are in mud. So normally when you have a healthy nervous system, you can access this animating energy that's like, what's that? Interesting. I want to go investigate that. It's a healthy, exploratory, but it's a calm, inviting sensibility. It's not a stress. When you're in freeze mode and you don't know how to regulate your nervous system, and you don't have healthy supports, and you don't have like skills to leave freeze mode, the only option you have is to access stress, is to access fear, is to access these things that will animate you, but will animate you in a very destructive, negative way. And that's what people tend to do without realizing that's what they're doing. I cannot be in freeze mode. I literally can't function here. I'm carrying way too much trauma. I have no ability to leave freeze mode. So what do? I'm gonna get very stressed out, and I'm gonna stay in stress mode. And guess what happens when my stress wears off? I freeze again. I can't function. So this is a complicated, interrelated thing to nervous system regulation, but also I think just emotional pain. The reason that I go into freeze mode is not because I don't know how to regulate my nervous system. It's because I'm sad. It's because I'm full of grief. And when I sit down, I want to cry my eyes out. And there is a certain amount of that just has to move through the body. And that is kind of where I'm at now. A lot of the time I wake up and I feel good and I feel ready to take on the day. And then a lot of the time I wake up and I am wanting to escape my body. I'm not wanting to be here for the pain and grief that is still stored there, that I've been escaping my entire adulthood. And I'm finally going, oh, okay. It's time to process this through. And it just processes through. It's quite a natural process. What is the pain doing today? How is the pain? So, this is not a video about emotional processing, but I will say, as you recover from burnout, all those things that you've been running from while you've been in your stress state are still there for you to be felt. And they can be felt slowly and processed slowly. One of the most important aspects of healing for me has been community, has been having people around me to support. I live in an intentional community. I talk about this with other women, and that support, both financially and emotionally, has been instrumental. After that terrible relationship, I began really being able to create secure attachments due to my own emotional work. So my romantic life feels stable and safe, and I'm able to be emotionally present for relationships, which makes it makes it much easier to go through this work. And I think that a lot of us who have made money a false god find ourselves with no friends around, find ourselves with no connections. And that's a result of not really prioritizing it in your life, prioritizing other things. And when I started this process, when I moved into my intentional community 18 months ago, I said, I want to design my life completely differently. What do I want my day-to-day to look like? I want to wake up in the morning and drink coffee and have slow time and read. And I want people to be around. And I want to have dogs. And I want to not have to show up for something that's stressful for me. And I've kind of asked that question to myself over and over again. And the thing about community is, like, it requires yucky things like communication skills and conflict resolution skills and dedication and all these things that are just like, that's not happiness. It's like, that's work. It takes work to build an intentional life. And it's so fascinating how, as I've dedicated myself to the intentional life, and then I listen to my heart, okay, where do we need to course correct a little bit? Where do we need to make some changes? The emotional stuff comes quite naturally. But I think the important thing was for me to know, okay, we should expect some pain now. We should expect some depression. This is natural. This is the body trying to heal itself. As someone who avoided all their emotions through stress, I cannot recommend enough reading books that validate emotional states. The Tao of Fully Feeling by Pete Walker. He's the same person who wrote CPTSD, From Surviving to Thriving. Amazing book. A book by a woman. Carla McLaren wrote The Language of Emotions. Here is every emotion, and here is what it is for. That is really helpful when I'm feeling a thing and I'm like, is this really necessary? What does this mean? So I'll look it up in that book. And yeah, I hope this has been helpful to those of you who are healing from burnout. And I want to tell you, you're going to be okay if you let those balls down. Find yourself some supports, get a therapist, look for friendship, seek loving and healing supports. You are human. You belong on this earth. You are safe. You do not have to stress yourself out in order to be okay. You're gonna be okay.